Good morning, Lillian. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your schedule to spend some time with me for this candidate board interview. So, why don't you go and tell us a little bit about yourself, what neighborhood you're from, and what encouraged you to submit your nomination?
Sure. Good morning, Stephen. My name is Lillian Gray. My husband Jeffrey and I live in Shearwater neighborhood. And let me see, I'm fully retired and loving it, so I get to enjoy more of the community. What made me decide to rerun for the board from 2 years ago was a number of people had approached me about rerunning, and I did some internal thought processes and realized that I do still have a passion to bring my skill set to the community as a whole. And so I decided to rerun.
Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and get right into the questions. All right. What officer position do you believe would be the best fit for your background and experience?
Oh, so at a previous our previous community, I was the president of our the HOA, and very quickly you understand and accept that no one person is an island unto themselves. It takes the entire board and the cooperation and collaboration of the entire board. So as a new member to the board, I would work with the team and serve in whatever role that fit.
All right, thank you. Next question. How will you, as a board member, endeavor to maintain the value of our homes or community in Sweetgrass?
I would definitely continue the infrastructure improvements. As some people may recall, 2 years ago when I ran, we have Sunrise Park that I believe would be used more readily if there was off-street parking, golf cart parking, because right now we have a lot of walkers there. And if people drive their car or their golf cart, it's a major intersection, so it's not safe. So I would look into, again, putting golf cart parking space over there, much like we have at the dog park, to make it more inviting, get better usage out of that. So continue to improve infrastructure, keep the value of our homes high, proper use of our green space so that everyone in the community benefits, and just make sure we're keeping our community prosperous with our infrastructure being maintained. New pools, I love that their work and the money is going into our lifestyle.
All right, thank you so much.
Sure.
Next question. Are you prepared to strictly maintain the deed restrictions in Sweetgrass?
I shy away from strict because by its very nature, it doesn't allow for flexibility. And something so important is sometimes each one of us will need the grace of going outside the rule. So, on a case by case basis, very limited, looking at what the deed restriction violation is and addressing it in that with that individual in that case. And maybe if there needs to be a small leeway to allow that so it comes back to adherence, but not necessarily strict, because that there's a fine line between um, living by the rules and having the rules work for the community.
Thank you. Next question. What
Mhm.
is your greatest professional achievement?
Wow. Um, Something that I'll always be proud of is fresh out of law school, I got an opportunity to work with uh, sex trafficked victims and different men and women from different countries that came here on the promise of citizenship, only to have to literally sell themselves to get that. And so working with them and using the Violence Against Women Act to get them their legal citizenship without them having to be trafficked, without them having to be degraded, just was something very important. And I was just so honored to be a part of that and give them the opportunity to live well without further victimization.
Thank you. Next question. Are you able to make the significant time commitment needed for this role?
Yes, I do not take this lightly at all. I know running a community, and it's such a large community, takes significant amount of time, takes the commitment. And being fully retired, as a resident, I have a vested interest in our success. And as an HOA board member, I would work tirelessly and put the long hours in and work in to be on this board and continue our success.
Thank you. Next question.
Mhm.
What do you see as disruptive forces impacting the community?
Oh, Stephen, you know, social media is wonderful and treacherous. I think something that is disruptive to us being successful is idle gossip and comments on social media that are offensive to people and offensive to the hard work others put in to move us forward. So I'd like to work as best I can to be transparent, get out and give people the information they need so there's not the second guessing, there's not the idle gossip that it undercuts and undermines us as a community.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Next question.
Sure.
What do you plan to do to make sure we do not lose valuable management team members?
So first I would sit down with the team. We have fabulous people that work for us. There's not a need, I don't think that they don't address. They're just fabulous all around people. But they are people who, while they work for us, they also need to have balance so they can disconnect, rest, live their lives, and when they come to us, bring their full selves. So I would work with them to make sure that they have the tools that they need to complete their task and do a fine job, but also to live their lives so that they have fulfillment outside and they can be their whole self.
Thank you. Next question. What is one thing you would like to see done differently next year, and one thing that you would like to continue as is?
One thing is transparency. And I know being on a board, there's a fine line between the transparent and confidentiality. But the fact is, we can have both. It bells go off when I hear board members who just signed a contract with our management company concerned. They seem very, very concerned with terms of the contract. If there were questions, why was it signed? And so, without spilling all the beans, bring it to the community of what the concerns are. Have open meetings, have open dialogue. So I would work to involve up to a point the community, because we all live here and we all do have an interest in our property values, in our way of life, the amenities that we're paying for. So I would like to see that changed. As far as the same or continuing, again, the uh, investment in our amenities, in our infrastructure, having our pools, instead of having to piecemeal repairs, go right to the framework and pour the cement anew and give us more longevity, because spending the money today on improvements will save us from the expense of emergency calls for lights or electrical, and even the inconvenience of having to shut down for repairs. I love the random benches that are placed throughout the community. A little foresight would have realized they're in direct Texas sun and they need some shade. So I would address that of maybe some type of umbrella covering. There are a few places, one right at the corner of Parsimmons that faces a house, and the beautiful landscaping is behind it. So, just sort of flip the chair. So I would like to see that continue and to the betterment of all of us.
Thank you. All right, last question.
Last question.
Please share an example of how you have done your part in leading by example of Sweetgrass.
Oh. So I enjoy service to others. So I don't have one example as much as I have just examples of I try and meet people where they are and service them and give them what they need and what instead of what I think they should have. So I value my neighbors. I help where I can. I get involved with different behind the scenes efforts that, they're not about me and they're not about getting my name up of so I can, have a CV that says I, because I'm working for the community. I do it for my neighbor. I do it for the betterment of my fellow man. And that, there's we can lead not necessarily from behind, but from behind the scenes, being the foundation that some people need to stand on to move themselves and help themselves. So that's what I enjoy doing, and I continue to do.
All right, Lillian, we greatly appreciate you coming down and
Sure.
taking the time to answer these questions.
Mhm.
But before we go, how about you leave us with like a final statement?
Okay, well, thank you, Stephen, again for having me and taking your time today. And thank you to all of you who are watching this video. I hope you share it with your friends and your neighbors and ask them to consider my candidacy for the HOA board. I do have experience in contract writing and settlements. I have experience working with people from all walks of life and cooperation, communication, both written and oral. So I don't shy away necessarily from the spotlight, but I try very hard not to make it about me. I believe my assets are beneficial to the board, and I will work hard to make sure that all of us here at Sweetgrass enjoy our community and we're as successful as we can be, and I would put in the time for that. So I do ask for your vote, and I thank you for your time.